Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah!
Yeah!
We got it! We got
New 52 booklet.
it! Somebody clip this one.
Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared. I'm here with Nick from the Phoenix Press. What's
My
up,
name
dude?
is my name is not Nick. It is Martha.
Okay, old man. So we're talking about a very interesting topic. So we're going to talk about two things. Number one, we're going to talk about what Zack Snyder got right about DC, and number
Spoiler
two,
alert, almost everything.
mostly everything. But then we're going to talk about some places where we think he could have improved. So to start off, we're trying to be as objective as possible. I say as I wear a Zack Snyder's Justice League hoodie, and I have they try behind me. But this is also in response to the whole Batman killing debate that's going on Twitter and being misrepresented by journalists. Oh, shock. Journalists are lying. So
Don't say.
what the first thing that I really think he got right is I know updating for the modern audience is kind of a buzzword and a very negative buzzword when it comes to fan discourse. But I think he did a great job of taking these characters and making it so people living now can relate to them. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The discourse around Zack Snyder is all kinds of muddled, because a lot of the hate towards him, like if you actually listen to the criticism, a lot of it is like, did you even watch the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to Man of Steel.
Okay.
All right. I think, okay, so I'm coming at this. I'm a Reeves fan. I've made that perfectly clear. Reeves is my favorite.
As is, you're 100% right, dude.
But I'm just saying this to emphasize my point.
Yeah.
I think Man of Steel is a perfect reimagining of Superman for the modern age.
And of course, I agree with that. And
of course you do.
It's like you can like both. That's the other thing
that's why I made a point of saying I'm a Reeves fan, but I love Man of Steel too. You know.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about DC discourse nowadays is that people on Twitter try to make it like you can only like one or the other. You're either a Snyder fan or you're a real DC fan. And I'm like, no. I can like both, because guess what? I've been watching DC movies since before Zack even did Man of Steel.
Like, I'm going to be honest with you. The people who call Zack Snyder's movies dark, here's the thing. I'm going to say something that you're probably going to agree with, Jared.
Of course.
Batman Returns and The Dark Knight are twice as dark as, are more dark than Batman v Superman.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting point about that. Elaborate.
Because Man of Steel is gritty. It's not dark. Okay. There's lots of jovial moments. Okay.
And he's not an edgelord. Superman does not brood in Man of Steel.
He does brood a little bit. He does get a little bit edgelordy in BVS. There's some,
but we're
some
talking
merit, some merit to the criticism. But we're
talking about MOS
here's the
right
thing.
now.
If you take BVS and you compare it to The Dark Knight,
that is 100% a misery fest. 100%.
or compare it to Batman Returns, Please tell me where in BVS did the penguin vomit black blood?
Bite someone's nose off and all that. Yeah, I'm like, no.
Where? Please tell me where in Batman v Superman did the penguin go on a 30-minute monologue about groping a groupie?
He was pressing on the button into her boob. Yeah, exactly. But where it's like when you look at Man of Steel, it's like the whole movie is him like trusting humanity, despite the fact that they probably want to turn him over to Zod. I mean, that's why he lets them put them in handcuffs. And I love the meme. If you ever feel stupid, remember they put Superman in handcuffs.
Or I'm going to say this: the Batman is darker than BVS.
Oh yes. Oh,
so
yeah.
Like all the criticisms about BVS is too dark. Like the Batman is darker than Zack Snyder's Justice League. Okay,
well,
like
and
tell me where in Justice League did Batman beat a guy to a bloody pulp? Tell me where in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
And here's the thing with BVS, you can kind of justify it more because when you look at the story and the character arc, mostly it's a Batman movie.
And like, here's the thing: the violence in BVS is very PG-13. Like
even
violence,
even in the R-rated version.
Versus like the Batman and BVS are both PG-13.
Yeah.
The Batman feels like a borderline R-rated movie.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly, it's like the very first time we like see the Riddler and it's in the darkness. He's just staring at him. He just beats the dude with that carpet tool.
Yeah, and then like all that stuff. Also like just like the sexual content of the Batman. Just like honestly, and I'm not saying BVS is fluffy kittens. I'm not saying that.
It's not.
But I'm saying all this to say that like people always, yes, BVS is dark. Yes, BVS is a bit edgelordy. I will grant you that. But to condemn it for being dark when we laud the Batman, when we laud the Dark Knight, whatever. See, here's the thing. They wanted a realistic dark depiction, which we've gotten like the Nolan and the Batman. I mean, people do criticize Batman Returns, to be fair.
And by the way, who was involved in the SnyderVerse? I believe his name is Christopher Nolan.
Well, he was involved in Man of Steel, and that's
but he's still established. Like, here's the general tone that we want to go with this.
Well, the tone drastically changed between Man of Steel and BVS. So, I think talking about Christopher Nolan in the context of BVS, I think it's a bit unfair.
Okay. I see what you're going with there.
And I'm not saying Snyder's films are perfect. I just think they're a bit overhated.
Yeah, particularly when you go into like the extended cuts. Because here's the thing, with the whole SnyderVerse discussion, most people say that when most people that like hated his movies, when they see the extended cuts, like with BVS or Justice League, they're like, "Oh, this is way better. Why didn't they just release this?"
And the thing I like about Zack Snyder's films, this is kind of like both a blessing and a curse for Zack. Zack is a smart guy, but he's kind of not as smart as he wishes he could be. Because like lot of his films,
save that until like the second part of the episode.
No. I need to kind of see I like that he puts a lot of high concepts in his films, like in BVS, about like, should Superman do all this stuff? Man versus God.
The political implications of someone with these powers.
Like, all the other Lex Luthors we've had have had really stupid reasons for not liking Superman. Zack Snyder brought in the classic comic book reason why Lex Luthor doesn't like Superman. Man versus God. Like Lex Luthor's entire motivation was make God bleed, bring God to heel. Like that's why that moment where Superman he gets to his arms and then like he has the eyes and then he goes and then like Zack and then like
like
it's a very thematic moment. God has not just now bowed before man. That's the whole entire thing.
I think he said that too. I think Lex went something like, "And now God bows before me."
And I gotta say, like, you want to know what my favorite line of BVS is?
What?
If God won't kill man, then the devil will do it.
And he brings in Doomsday. I love that. That is so good.
I mean, we'll get to the negative part. The way they did Doomsday, I don't think it was good way doing it. But that line and the way also Jesse Eisenberg. I think Jesse Eisenberg was a good Lex Luthor. Like, I don't get
he because again, updating it for the modern audience. If Lex Luthor existed now, he would be a tech bro.
Yeah, and then he was very menacing.
Yeah,
like
he was very scary as Lex Luthor because he actually seemed a little unhinged. Plus, that's straight from the comics to anyone that read Superman Birthright.
Plus, like, to be fair, this version of Lex Luthor's go-to intimidation is to make people uncomfortable. You know, like when he takes the gummy, the candy, and he puts it in their mouth and swishes it around. You know, invading personal space, the touching, like the kind of like he likes to make people really, 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 really uncomfortable, and that's how he intimidates people, and I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I like is that he treated the Justice League like they're gods amongst men, not just with like, well, for one thing, the cinematography. Whenever he every time he showed these characters, it looked like a comic book panel, like that one shot of Superman when he's charging up in space, his eyes open, he has the red eyes, and I'm like, that looks straight up like you went to a comic book and said, "I want to do this."
See, my biggest problem with the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor is his scheme for the time was fine. You know, the real estate thing.
Yeah.
Like in the 70s, they're doing Silver Age. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like when viewing the context, and this is why another reason I think Superman Returns didn't work is because a real estate thing in the late 2000s is kind of stupid.
When did Returns come out?
I think like 2007 or something.
So that's even before the housing crisis.
Yeah, but even with the housing crisis,
I know. Yeah, I'm like, what type of motivation is that? You're a rich dude. Just build more real estate.
Like the whole oh, I'm gonna detonate nukes, cause an explosion, and then all this desert land will become valuable. Like that's a fair enough plan for the time. Like I got no issue with in the context of the time it works. It's
straight up. Like you said before, that's a plot that would be in the Silver Age of comics.
Yeah, but when they tried to do a similar plot, like the problem with Superman Returns is they didn't change enough. You know, also the characters acted a little more modern. You know, the suit, like everything else was good, but the plot, you know,
and kind of the characterization of Superman was still a little. They tried to bring Christopher Reeve straight up into the modern age, and the thing about it,
I think Brandon Routh did a great job. I think
he's good.
I think it's a script that let him down. I think he acted enough Christopher Reeve. I really think it's a script that let him down, and maybe the direction.
I agree there. Where when you get to Zack, that's why I say Man of Steel is telling the exact same story. Well, obviously changed a little bit, but the same basic story of Superman 78 is being told by Man of Steel. It's a guy that finds out he's an alien, has to find his place in the world, and goes through an experience where all of a sudden he decides, you know what, I'm going to be the protector of this planet.
I disagree, because Superman 78 was he becomes Superman, and then Lex is doing his plot. It's kind of independent of each other, and then they kind of collide. Okay. Whereas in Man of Steel, his origin and the Zod plot are interlinked.
Okay, I see. That's a good point. But it's still, because if you're paying attention with Man of Steel, that's still a very hopeful movie. And even BVS is a very hopeful movie, because if you notice, and this is what people hear me out on this, dude. This is what people forget about. It's what the people complaining about killing Batman is talking about. Regardless on which Robin is dead, ignoring that, there's precedence in the comics that when Jason died, Batman got super brutal, and then that's why that's part of the reason why Tim Drake showed up and said, "Hey, you need a Robin," right? Now,
I mean, I have no problem with the characterization of Batman and BVS, for the record.
hear me on this. Here's the thing about BVS shows. Remember, granted, again, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the weaknesses with the whole combining the death of Superman. However, when you look at Batman's arc, because for first off, to explain Batman's arc, is that you have this dude, because remember, Batman is used to essentially having all the power because he has all the gadgets, all the training and everything like that, and he's just being. Then all of a sudden, can you imagine being Batman, who's paranoid already, finds out that there are gods amongst us? Because you saw, actually, this was a good moment when Bruce is going through the files in BVS. You see his face when he sees like all of the Justice League's logos. So at the end of the movie, so you have Batman. He is he's the lowest he's been in a while. So apparently, according to Zack, the story also on the backside is that he was married to Catwoman, but she left him. He has lost everything. All he has left is being Batman. Then you have this god who you should hate, but then all of a sudden, no matter what, granted, we can debate about the Martha scene, but the point is, then you have this god whose only concern is other people. He sacrificed himself for the world. And this kind of is a wake-up call to Bruce. And if you notice at the end of the movie, at Superman's funeral, Bruce basically goes, men are still good. We fight, we die, but we can do better. We have to.
You're talking his character arc.
His character arc. The
character I wouldn't. But the thing is, that's not hopeful though. Like just because he has an arc where at the end he's hopeful, it's not like the movie itself hopeful. The movie itself is very downtrodden, dystopian. Like when Superman says, "No one stays good in this world," Henry Cavill delivers that line amazingly well. But like he is at his that is his lowest point. Is he's resigned and I love the fight. The fight is great up until that last part. The way they ended it, we will debate that. But like afterwards, when they just get up and they start acting a little more buddy, I like it. And also,
I'm a fight of your sons.
Also, the Arkham fight, and I've talked about this before. Like, I'll do it. I believe you.
That is I still say what you want about Zack Snyder's characterization of Batman. The warehouse fight in BVS is going to go down as one of, if not the best Batman fight scenes of all time.
Even back in the day.
Even back in the day.
Out for praise. Also, like, one of my favorite moments is like, "Hi, I'm a son of your friends."
No,
I know.
Wait.
I recognize
wait. I'm a son of your friends? You have to excuse Nick. His old man brain got mixed up.
I'm a friend of your son's. Like, yeah, I recognize the cape. Like, just like the way that Diane Lane says it, because like she's just got rescued. She's
like, all right, fine. She's like, all right, fine. That tracks.
It's like, now you could tell me you're the one-eyed purple people eater, and I believe you at this point.
Yeah, and then I love the reveal of who Gal Gadot plays. If you ignored the marketing campaign, because you think she's playing Catwoman, but until this point, she's walking off the plane, and this is such a well done way to do this. She's just walking, and all of a sudden she goes, "Excuse me, Miss Prince." So if you somehow missed all the trailers, and you're us who are aware of who these characters are, and you hear Miss Prince, you're like, "Wait, what?" All of a sudden, it's a Trinity movie.
Also, Jared, I need to recreate something. I'm gonna say it, and you're gonna, thought she was with you.
No. You messed the first part. All right.
No. Okay. No,
okay.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Is she with you?
I thought she was with you.
That's the other thing. He gave Wonder Woman such a badass entrance where Doomsday's about to kill Batman. He shoots the laser beams, and the Wonder Woman just lowers it. And then you hear the Hans Zimmer cello score, and I'm like...
And it's like, I fought worse before. And then like, okay.
I killed things from other worlds before.
Okay, we talked about this sequence of events ad nauseum, but we're going to do it again because
it's so cool.
So the moment that sold me for Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. I was watching the scene. Jared knows exactly what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you're going to say in part of this. Is is like when she's fighting Doomsday and like she gets knocked back and she's like got the smile.
Because
Like,
that is 100% what Diana would do. She's like, oh, this is a fight. I love this.
And
my favorite, there are a couple of other great scenes.
What's the behind the scenes trivia for that?
That was completely improvised because she thought, okay, she's in a fight, she'd be feisty and all that stuff. I wanted to be more fight, and I'm like, you get the character, that you understand the assignment. There you go.
That smile,
Diana
like, when she got knocked back, like she was enjoying this. That sold me on the character
because she's a warrior. Okay. The line that dug me was when she's talking to Bruce and she goes, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. And I'm like, okay, you get it.
Says it with just such confidence.
She smiles first. Just that smile first. And she's like, I just love that. And it's just the thing about the way they reveal Wonder Woman. Again, okay, when we talk about this, we're going to act like we haven't seen the trailers. The way they do it is that, again, it's a fake out. You think she's Catwoman. And then that happens. And then first off, we get the shot with the Trinity in live action. And as a fan of the Trinity, I was going nuts in that theater, dude.
Also, notice who was standing at the head of the Trinity.
Wonder Woman, exactly. It's like it's like that's a commentary on Zack Snyder about how people. I bet you is she with you? I thought she was with you. As a commentary on Zack about how people want her to be with either Batman or Superman. I would not be surprised.
If Wonder Woman was a Skyrim character, she'd be like, "I am your sword and your shield."
Yeah, and she had a sword and shield at that scene.
Which, by the way, that's an actual line that companions say ad nauseum, so it just makes it extra funny.
The other part that was so cool is when Wonder Woman charges and you get that warrior scream. And he treated Wonder Woman like a warrior. Now, if we had gone on more, I still think we will at some point. We would have gotten more of the peaceful Wonder Woman, and we got a little bit of that in ZSJL when she comforts that little girl after the heist scene. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing I will say about Zack is that when the cinematography in his movies is, again, it's recreating the comic books, and he did this 100% with 300. That was part of his pitch for 300 when they were telling him, hey Zack, what do you want to do next? He held up a copy of 300 and he goes, I want this, and I'm going to make it.
Well, that's the thing about Zack is even his most ardent haters, they admit his movies look good.
Yeah,
like no one ever has doubted his ability to make something look good on screen.
And when you look at the budgets he gets, it's not crazy. Let me put it that way. That's why I say with Zack, he can get away with a lot. And I think it's kind of funny. I like how a lot of the criticism about Man of Steel was there's too much product placement, and I'm like, you realize that with all that product placement, they practically paid off the cost of the movie, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so then we get into Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yes, obviously we're talking about the Snyder Cut, and this continues a great trend that I love with Zack's movies.
# restore the SnyderVerse.
Yes, exactly. I love how how the subsequent movies begin exactly where the last one ended. Like with BVS, it starts with the Black Zero event in Metropolis. In this, it's the death of Superman, and you see like the effects. It's kind of cool, Nick, when you watch BVS and the last time Superman screams, you could see the shockwaves coming out from his scream.
Ooh.
You know why? Because he filmed BVS and ZSJL back to back. So that's why he was able to go, okay, so this goes here, 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 here. And the thing about ZSJL is that the number one thing that I think this movie does fantastically is that every one of the Justice League members got to do something cool. Like if you're an Aquaman fan, if you're if you're a Flash fan, you got something to say. That is awesome. Like the Flash running back in time, Superman in the black suit going not impressed. Everyone got a moment. And that's kind of hard to do in a team movies, to give each one that like badass moment. Yeah, exactly. That running scene was so good. And when you realize that First off, I love how that was the first thing Toby Emmer cut from the movie, and then he was in the audience when that won the Oscar. That was the greatest sense of irony ever.
Oh yeah,
that was just so good. But now, Nick, what do you think the Snyder Cut does best in terms of like the way it characterizes everyone, in the way
it's not the other cut.
Well, yeah, that's pretty obvious. The other thing I think
there are no Flash falling into Wonder Woman's boobs.
I see that, and I'm like, and people wonder why I have no respect for that other director. Zero. There's a reason why I haven't reviewed Firefly on this channel. There's a very strong reason why I refuse to put any content relating to that director on this channel.
And there's a reason why every time I bring it up for my channel, he fights me tooth and nail.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I'm not giving him any attention. I don't care if the show is the greatest show in the world. I'm not devoting an ounce of my
Firefly is the greatest show in the world.
It's a good show, but I'm not devoting any more of my speaking ability to that individual. But the other thing I like about ZSJL, Cyborg's arc in it, because here's the thing about that. Zack's movies always have this common theme of you are not alone. And just that scene at the end when Cyborg goes, I'm not broken and I'm not alone.
Yeah, it's good.
That is just like, yeah, that is 100% there. And it's like, even, it's kind of funny. It's like now they get their, this is why the Justice League works, particularly the way it works in Zack's universe, because people say, why didn't Martian Manhunter show up in the Zod fight or anything like that? To which I say, first off, he was helping. It's the same thing with BVS. But the thing I always bring up is because at the time, again, you saw it because all these metahumans, they saw how the world treated Superman when he outed himself, air quotes. Do you really think that someone's going to want to expose themselves to that level of scrutiny?
I'm going to save my opinions on Martian Manhunter for the next section.
Yeah, but
I will say this though, watching Man of Steel and BVS, knowing he's Martian Manhunter, like his whole characterization takes on an entirely new meaning. Like so much stuff you view through an entirely different lens, knowing he's Martian Manhunter.
Particularly, it's like at the end of Man of Steel when Superman goes, "I guess I'll just have to trust you," because Superman probably knows he's Martian Manhunter. It's like cards on the table, General. Bang.
Also, Martian Manhunter can't read Superman's mind. That's the one person he can't read. So when he says trust, he actually means it.
Yeah. I guess I'll just have to trust you. That's just so. Again, you're right, because when I watched Man of Steel after watching ZSJL for the first time, and she shows up, I'm like, the scene where it really sunk in for me is when they're talking through the glass. And I'm like, oh man, this is so different right about now. Oh man. Yeah. But the
for example, why the hell would they allow Lois Lane in there? If only, but Martian Manhunter knew, because he read Lois's mind and whatnot. He knows about their connection. He knows she is the only one that can actually kind of get through to him, and so otherwise, there's no way in hell Lois would have been allowed in there.
Mm-hmm. So before we transition to some weaknesses, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up. Zack essentially, whether intentionally or unintentionally, adapted pretty closely the New 52 era of comics, except for the Superman Wonder Woman thing. But his characterization of Superman, that's New 52 Superman to a T.
Isn't he wearing the New 52 Superman suit?
No, he's not, because he would have like a collar and it would look more armored. The fact that it's a Kryptonian uniform, yeah, that's the other thing. I liked how Zack gave an explanation to what these things are, because it's the undersuit of Krypton. The other thing, you should see my mind blown when I found out that all the Kryptonian armor is CGI. Everything, when you see set photos of Jor-El and Zod, they're in the normal CGI suits that they track stuff on. Everything is CGI. and you wouldn't know. That's the other thing. Nick, let me ask you this. With the black suit in ZSJL, if I didn't tell you that was CGI, would you have been able to tell? The suit itself, not the cape.
I wouldn't. Though, to be fair, it's CGI colored.
Yeah, but to a degree, but there are still times where, like, even if it's colored, you can
But the
tell.
color job looks amazing.
Yeah, and obviously they CGI the cape so it can have a proper, like, cape flapping and all that stuff. That's the other thing. One of my favorite parts of ZSJL, when Superman is walking through the ship and you hear his two fathers, and then they're both eventually saying the same thing. And then when Jonathan Kent says, "Fly, son, it's time," I'm like, yeah, this is great.
That's basically Zack's way of saying, like, he reckons he's kind of having a Spock moment there.
Yeah,
he's reconciling both his human and his alien side, because like Spock was half Vulcan, half human, and a big part of his character was like the two halves of his side. The human and the alien warring within. That's why he was so compelling. And so this is kind of a similar moment where both his side, and like obviously Pa Kent represents the human, Jor-El represents the alien, and they're all like they're discordant, but at the end they are one, just like his soul. By the end of that walk, he's ready. He is both Kryptonian and human, both in equal measures.
Yes, and again, that's the other thing Zack did great, because a lot of creatives tend to like downplay the Kryptonian heritage part of Superman. He didn't. He gave both equal representation, and I'm like, thank you, because my problem with like John Byrne's Man of Steel is that they portrayed the Kryptonians as like emotionless robots, including Jor-El, and I'm like, no, I like this portrayal of Jor-El way better. But and then we can. Do you want to briefly touch on the whole killing Zod thing? I actually do, for one thing. So when I was on Nerdette's channel and I was debating this with her, one of the things she said is that he could have put his hand in front of Zod's eyes. Zack actually answered this. When Superman is fighting Feora in Smallville, there's a point where she has his hand over his eye like this. This is when his heat vision like activates, and it's actually a beam. It's the first time the beam shows up. It is so powerful, it knocks her hand away. So that would not work.
Well, to be fair, okay, let's kind of play that part out. Even if, like, I think part of it was Feora was surprised by the Force. Okay, but even then, okay, let's say Superman, he knows the amount of force he's gonna get. He might be able to hold it in front of his the hand for like a few seconds, like let's say 10 seconds max. He can't do it forever. Okay. Yeah. And then like, okay, what then? Like,
yeah, he's
puts it in front of him and then like and goes forward. Like,
plus, here's the thing: if he takes a hand off of Zod, that's compromising the hold he has on Zod. Because if Zod knocks him away, he's just gonna murder the family anyway.
Yeah, like for example, like he can't just like knock him on the head, because that's taking an entire arm off, and Zod will be like, boom.
And that's the thing.
He's barely holding him. He's barely with two arms. He's barely holding him down.
That's my thing about that scene. People treat it like Zod activates his heat vision, then Superman just snaps his neck. No, he was begging him to stop. He was like, "No, don't do this.
I'm never gonna stop." Like, see, this is the problem I have with a lot of Zack Snyder criticisms. Is a lot of the stuff it's explained in the movie,
even earlier in the fight.
It's so people are so used to the Marvel movies where everything is spelled out to you, explained to you. It's like, and this is not even like, oh, the door is red, so that means the other world. It's not like this kind of like you have to watch closely and decipher it. No, this is like easy details.
Even that, like, earlier in the fight, Zod says, "This only ends one way, Kal-El. Either you die or I do."
Yeah, like honestly, like if this movie had come out, if Man of Steel had come out in the 90s, with that like people like or in the 80s, and that situation had happened, no one would be questioning it, because I do feel like the caliber of intelligence for like the average audience has gone down to such. Like Zack,
well, here's the thing too.
Very well.
Here's the thing. when you factor in Superman 2, when Superman crushes Zod's hand with a smile on his face and punches him into a wall after he's been depowered, I'm like, Christopher Reeve killed. That's another. That's one of my favorite moments on Nerdette Show. I brought that up, and I'm like, yeah, in the theatrical cut, he murders Zod because he punches him with enough force to launch him across the room. And this is Zod that has been completely depowered. He's dead. That's my other really. That's my big issue with a lot of Snyder criticism. People excuse it when it's any other director. I'm like, if you're consistent, that's one thing. Shout out to Von Coleman, who when I was debating Snyder on my channel with him, he brought up that he doesn't like how most Batman have killed in the movies, including Michael Keaton stuff. So I'm like, hey, at least you're being consistent. I can respect that, even if I disagree.
Yeah.
But it's like people treat it like Superman, like people only have an issue with it if Zack Snyder's directing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's transition to the weaknesses of the SnyderVerse. Now, here's my, I'm going to start. Here's where I think one weakness is, and it gets into the fact that that the most hailed versions are the long versions. He has trouble telling a complete story in two and a half hours, let's say.
Yeah, like as great as the Snyder Cut is, there is no way in hell that is getting released in theaters.
Likely it would be 2.5 to 3 hours is pushing it, but 2.5 at most.
Like, I don't even think you can cut that down to 3 hours. Like, what that is there, like, I think you'd have a hard time cutting that down to 3 hours.
I mean, you can cut a lot of the CGI out, and like a few times it like sticks on a scene. Like you can even cut out the whole Barry and Iris scene. And
I mean, honestly, actually, I even feel like 4 hours, even on its own, is too long, even for a thing. Like, they should have done just make it a mini series, 4 hour-long episodes. Like, yeah, I know they segmented it, but it was one long thing. Like, why can't you just have that be separate episodes so that people can stop if they want? Like, I get that they did that, but it's still 4 hours long.
But I think it was an issue with like rights or something like that. But I'm saying in 2017, I don't know that.
Warner Brothers owns CC.
I don't know. I'm just going off of what Zach said, but I think in 2017, if they had released at least this version, let me put it this way: if they had chopped down this movie like 2.5 hours or so, and then released the Snyder Cut on DVD, because think about what this movie doesn't have. Those stupid Flash falling into Wonder Woman's boobs, the random Russian family, the red sky that makes no sense, Superman's lip looks normal, like the majority of those, and you keep those character beats, I think people would have been a lot more favorable.
Yeah, I think a 2.5 hour cut of this version would have been compromised, probably to a fatal degree. And a 3 hour version might not have been palatable to people.
But again, we're in a post Lord of the Rings world. That's the thing. That's why I push back on that. People wouldn't sit through a 3 hour movie because Lord of the Rings came out.
Yeah, but like stuff like Lord of the Rings and Dune are still like really good movies that have a lot of hype. Even back then, like let's say Snyder never gets fired. Okay, yeah. Let's enter that timeline. You got to remember, there was still a lot of flack. Like Zack was on the back foot even then.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that even if like a 2.5 hour version of Zack's version would have done better than He Must Not Be Named. That is clear. Like that is an objective fact.
Because you wouldn't have the issues. Because here's the other thing: is like you could have even taken those scenes and put more. You could have even pushed that, because remember, though, the other cut of Justice League is straight 2 hours even, because that was the strict time limit. So you get, and remember, with BVS, when you add the half hour back in, it makes more sense of a movie.
So, the version of Justice League that doesn't exist
is straight 2 hours, right?
No, I'm just looking at box office. It made 661 million. Okay, at the global box office. All right, and it had actually a worldwide opening of 278. Honestly, it actually didn't do too bad, especially compared to now stuff. But if Zack Snyder's version had come out, I think we'd be talking more in the $700 to $800.
I think it would have made at least the box office returns of BVS.
That's why I'm saying like 700, 800, 900 max.
Which, hey, that's a good thing. That's a real. It's so
well,
yeah.
In the context of nowadays, that's amazing. But in the context of that box office, 600. Like you got to realize this. Like when the version of Not Named came out, like Marvel movies were regularly like hitting $1 billion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but again, this is when Zack reminds Warner Brothers that, hey, the early MCU movies didn't make $1 billion. They didn't start off doing that.
They don't care. Like if that argument had worked, like BVS, the only people who consider it a financial, like if you look at the numbers, like BVS is still like did really well. It actually did better than the Batman before adjusting for inflation. And it made $1 billion when you adjust inflation.
Exactly. So technically, yes, but but yeah. And here's the thing: if this movie had been released, I think you would have also gotten more of the critics involved too, because yes, 800 is not because I think that if it let's say it makes BVS,
it would have at least made 700 million because I think minimum 700.
Let's say it makes like the numbers of the Batman. Let's say
that was like 770.
Okay, let's say somewhere in between the Batman and BVS.
Let's also 750.
Yeah. Okay. Say it makes that.
Actually, no. Like I think BVS is like let's say 800 million. 800 million.
Let's say that. But then you also get the critics on board saying, "Okay, this is actually great. They're improving." I think that Warner Brothers would have been like, okay, you know what? Yeah, it decreased a little bit, but now we have the critics, because that's the other thing. When BVS came out, you didn't have the critics on your side.
And let's since this is our fantasy world,
yeah.
Let's say, okay, now this is 2017, all right. Let's say that Warner Brothers makes a deal with Netflix to where the Snyder Cut is put on Netflix in 2017 as a 4-part miniseries. Then it gets released
put
on
everything
Blu-ray
on.
later.
Put everything in. Do the 4-hour version at that point.
So basically, because I could see it, like in this timeline, I could see Warner Brothers making that deal where Netflix would be like, "Hey, give us 6 months exclusive rights to the Snyder Cut, or whatever."
Because
then you can put it on DVD.
That's what they did with Watchmen. The Ultimate Cut is like 4 hours long.
And they turn it into a mini-series. A 4-hour, 4-part mini-series, 4 hours long. I mean, hell, at this point, let's say 5 hours. 5 episodes, or whatever. Because if you break it up into episodes, you can go as long as you want.
Yeah. That's why
10-hour Snyder Cut, everybody.
Well, yeah. That's why I say, here's the thing about Zack, is that if let's say they do invite him back now to do it, to complete the story, do it as a mini-series, not as a movie, because Zack does better, because if you do with a miniseries, Zack doesn't have to take stuff out, or at least as much as he would with a movie.
Because here's the thing, Universal doesn't have its own streaming service, so they're kind of
they launch it with the SnyderVerse.
No. Here's what they do. Okay, so basically, and this is like fantasy world, whatever. Okay, Christopher Nolan comes in, and he's now the head of Superman Legacy is a one-off movie. It does okay. It basically does the Batman numbers. Disappointment, all right? So, they sell Warner Brothers to Universal, okay? So it's now Warner Brothers Universal, all right?
Or they even just sell DC, everything DC to Universal.
Sure. I mean, either way.
Either way.
Nothing really changes. So, they appoint Christopher Nolan as the head of this new thing. And so
Nolan do it though.
Nolan still has a love for the DC characters. Like you see how like his interviews, he still likes the characters.
I think he would, as long as they also allow him to make his other films as well. They could do kind of like, I'll tell you what, here's what they do. Universal actually does like a creative committee where they have like Zack Snyder, Jim Lee, Chris Nolan, a lot of the creatives around it. So it's like a committee thing. So if Nolan is like filming, let's say Oppenheimer 2 or something like that, he can say, okay, so Zack, you handle it while I'm gone.
Imagine a Crisis on Infinite Earth movie, directed by Christopher Nolan, and they actually managed to bring back Bale, and you have like,
oh, hell yes.
And they have Ben Affleck and you know, on there too.
Bale turns to Affleck. He's like, I like that voice changer. It's so much easier on your throat. That'd be great. But anyway, so that's what I could see happening there. And by the way, I'm sure I think it's gonna happen.
So here's actually what I think they do in a Crisis thing. If they wanted to go the Dark Knight, they're going in Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Nightwing. So what happens? So basically, here's my headcanon. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt got the keys to the manor. Okay, he's the next incarnation. He doesn't become Batman. He becomes Nightwing because he's Robin.
Yeah, his name is Robin.
He's not Batman.
Literally, he is Nightwing. Robin.
I don't think he becomes Batman. I think he becomes Robin. I mean, Nightwing is what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah.
So basically, Crisis on Infinite Earth, you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Nightwing, but it's the Dark Knight universe.
I would love that. That'd be great. And then that Nightwing teams up with the Titans Nightwing. But anyway, back on topic.
And then Titans like F Batman. Like, what?
Mm-hmm. Now let me. So Nick, what are some of the other like chinks in the Snyder cut in the SnyderVerse armor? Would you say,
Martha?
Okay. So basically what's interesting about that is that's kind of a weakness that I identified too. It's just in the same way as like the audience should.
It feels cheap. It feels cheap. Like you can make all justifications you want for it. Okay.
He could have done more to like make that work.
Yeah, you can make any justification you want for it, but at the end of the day, it comes across as very cheap and very lazy. Well, like the site leading up to it is great. The fight itself is great, but like it feels like a cop out almost. It feels like a cheap kind of way to end it. Like honestly, even just like having Lois intervene a second earlier and just giving Batman a chance to think. That even because basically the whole Martha thing gave Lois Lane time to get over there. I mean, screw that. I would have had Lois Lane get over there like right as he's about to stab him. Have Lois do it, you know.
Well, also, can we have a scenario where Lois Lane is not involved at all? That's the ideal scenario. You know, I had to put in some.
But the other thing I would say is, I would take the Martha thing out. I would have him say, "Mother, save my mother."
Yeah, there you go. Because
the whole like Martha thing is kind of like you know, bring that together. But just like in his last dying breath, he's asking you to save his mother. And then like Lois comes in, his mother. His mother Martha.
His mother is
going
to
have it.
Okay, I could see that. That would have been a little better. I do agree with you on that one.
Because,
while
like,
I appreciate the scene, that is the interesting way to go with it.
Because it makes him pause, like, you know, like his like in the last dying breath, he has to save his mother. You know,
you could still.
And then Lois comes in.
He could still even scream this after Lois.
Why did you say that, Dad?
Sure, or just something similar. I think that kind, you know, makes it a little bit better.
Okay, I can definitely see that, and I could compromise on that. If they had done that, I could tell you that would have been a little cleaner.
It kind of gives the scene a little more chance to breathe, in my opinion.
Okay, so because in other words, it kind of brings it to a less anticlimactic ending.
Because like the fact that he paused because their mothers are both named Martha, you know, I think that's kind of
what
stupid.
It seems like.
He pauses because, oh, I'm about to kill this person. He's asking me to save his mother. And then when he says the name's Martha, then that becomes like a click in his head, you know, we're like, okay, he's human too. Like it's instead of it becoming the catalyst, it becomes the cornerstone. instead of it becoming the beginning of this shift, it becomes the end cap of it. You know what I'm saying?
That works. I would say
Like,
that.
it becomes a cherry on top rather than the whole meat of in potatoes.
Okay.
Why am I
That
using a
works.
food analogy? I don't know.
I have no idea. Now you're making me hungry.
I guess I'm
Thanks a lot.
hungry.
Yeah. So the other thing is like, yeah. So to assert, so in other words, in order to summarize this weakness, in the same way as like the audience shouldn't have to have everything explained to them, there are times when Zack gives too little information. Now, the other thing, well, while I understand the tornado scene and I appreciate it and I understand it,
I disagree.
I will say this. Hang on. It could have been done a lot more clean, I would say. Because what they could have done is they could have done a little more to like show that there's no way he could get there without using powers of some kind.
But my argument is, it's a freaking tornado. There's enough like vagueness of it that like he could have gotten there. The only really thing is lifting the car up, which that might have like caused suspicion. But like,
well, here's the other thing: if you really wanted to have Jonathan die, you could have also done what they did in Superman and Lois with the heart attack.
Yeah,
because
like
he does save him, but after that, John dies of the heart attack.
No, what it is, no, here's what I would do.
Okay.
I'd turn it into a Faustian choice to where basically you have the tornado happening and like he saves him and he starts to have a heart attack while they're under the bridge. But then there's a dog or a woman in trouble. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, Dad, I can get you to the hospital. I can get you to the hospital. He's like, no, save the person. Don't forget about me. And so he goes, saves them. And by the time he gets back, his dad is already gone.
Okay.
And it's
I
like,
can see that too.
It's like, I saved this person, but I couldn't save the one person. Like, you get a similar kind of result. It's not as clear cut, kind of thing.
Okay.
Like,
I can see that.
I just think the whole like needing to hide thing, I think, was very sloppily done, and it was very like it didn't really work.
Okay.
Like the whole like I don't know scene, I will defend because
because
that is the most honest part of the movie, in my opinion.
And
he's not saying he's not saying you should let those people drown. He's just saying I don't know.
I don't have the answers. This is uncharted territory.
Thing. Like
I dare any parent when you know your son has powers and they ask him that, what are you gonna say?
Because like he honestly doesn't know because he doesn't want a real secret. But like it's a very honest thing to say. Like
plus,
just
if you look at the entire scene, and I did, and I analyzed it, I'll put a link to that video up here. If you take everything into account, because not only is it, and he says maybe or something like that, the way I took it as it's not my decision, Clark, it's your decision, but you have to, moving on, when they're in the barn and you have the whole, can I just keep pretending I'm your son? He goes, that Kevin Costner scene where he goes, you are my son. That whole scene, if you take it, all of it in context, that's him saying, I can't make this choice for you, Clark, but you're going to have to make this choice for you. But when you're ready, make sure you pick your moment because you can't take this back and it's going to change everything about the world.
Yeah.
That's what he said. But besides that, what else do you think is like another weakness of the SnyderVerse? Now, by weakness, I don't mean stuff that's because Warner Brothers screwed him. I mean like stuff of what Zack did.
Well, it's kind of like I said. Zack is a very high concept guy. Like the plots he chooses are interesting, and he's a very visual person. But his follow through, like the way he structures plots, like he doesn't like he has great ideas. He just has a hard time explaining a lot of them. Also, his dialogue is okay, but like the characterizations kind of leave a bit to the desired sometimes.
Well, again, he didn't write any of these. The only movies where he has like of the SnyderVerse that he has like a writing credit in is Wonder Woman and Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I mean, Sucker Punch, but yeah, also.
of the ones he wrote. Did he actually was he actually credited as a writer for Sucker Punch?
I think he wrote Sucker Punch. I mean, I could be
Let
wrong.
me check. Let me check. That's a good point.
Because I view Sucker Punch as
story body,
Zack Snyder in his purest form. Like you want like the clearest distillation of Zack Snyderness, it is Sucker Punch.
Yeah. Okay, he is credited as a screenwriter. I was just saying in terms of the DC movies, but that's a good point.
Sucker Punch is the purest distillation of Zack Snyder. All flash, very little cash.
Okay, that's a good point.
And I like Sucker Punch, by the way.
Me too. That was a fun movie. But now,
what makes you?
But I think what Nick and I, the purpose of this episode is to tell you there's more good in the SnyderVerse than bad. There's way more good, because again, like that's why what Zack Snyder got wrong about it is so like minuscule, because again, granted, acknowledging our bias, we like his movies, so it's not like we're gonna.
But on that same token, while we do love Zack Snyder, even we admit his movies are a bit of a flawed gem.
Yeah,
they are not
except
perfect.
For the Snyder cut. The Snyder cut is perfect. That's a perfect film.
I think it's way too long. Even at 4 hours, it's a bit of a slog.
Nick, I'm making a joke, but yeah. So here's the thing: we'll acknowledge that the SnyderVerse has its issues, pun intended, but the gem part of the issue outweighs the actual issue, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's more fun. So anyway, I think it's a good place to leave it. We had a good discussion about the SnyderVerse, and let us know what other universes you would like us to discuss. Like we could talk about the good and the bad of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies for Under Two Capes episode. That's actually not a bad idea. I can't believe we didn't do that yet. Well, we'll see how this does.
Oh, so, that's gonna really be a turning of the tables, because I'm the Reeves fanboy here, and you're like I like him, but like,
well, of course,
so
because
like,
you're an old man.
All right, you better stop the episode, because I'm about to do a rude gesture in 3.
All right.
2,
but anyway,
1.
So, in other words, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you. So, this is coming on Friday. So tonight we have CLD, and then obviously we have on movie night we're talking about Kingsman 1. Which is going to be on Saturday, regular time.
Man.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to be excited for that. So Nick, where can we find you, and what have we got coming out on your channel?
All righty then. So this comes out on Friday. We got the Friday Night Frenzy. We'll be talking about some indie infighting, how people like Eric July and even Vince Guyver just can't seem to get along, and debating kind of like which side's better, which one side has more merits. On Saturday, we got EC Plays. And then on Monday, we got the return of Rewatch. We'll be doing Teen Titans episode 2. Comics Watch is still on hiatus, but that will return. And then I got some more stuff cooking for you, so look forward to it.
All right, so I will see you guys later. Stay heroic. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame, and she belongs with General Zod. See you later.